Right, good Monday to everybody. Thanks for clicking on to today's European Outlook. As always, it was a good weekend here on the channel. We had the European Outlook back on Saturday, and then we had the live stream yesterday looking at all things global. You can check that out. I will leave a link in the description below for yesterday's live stream if you want to watch that back. But this is the upcoming 7 days according to the CFSV2. The following 7 days we look like this here. So plenty of low pressure to the south, higher pressure to the north. Temperature anomalies are looking like this here for week 1 of the CFSV2, below average, extending anywhere from Eastern Europe through Central Europe into the UK and Ireland. Week 2 is looking somewhat colder, and you can see the coverage of colder becoming a little bit more extensive across the continent. In terms of precipitation, not a whole lot to speak about. The easterly winds continue. It still has a lack of teeth, that easterly wind, so we are not certainly talking about anything noteworthy in terms of cold or snow or disruption or anything like that. But it is a dry outlook. This is the upcoming 7 days. The following 7 days drier than average. Then we start to see something a little bit wetter moving in from the west as we move towards the end of the month into early portions of March. Where we've had the clear skies and lightest winds, we have seen temperatures drop to between -7 -9 Celsius in recent nights, especially in the Northwest Highlands. We've had the more prime conditions for radiational cooling to take place. Further south under the cloud cover, we've seen temperatures holding up above the freezing mark. These are the current temperatures at the moment, which is not far off 5:30 p.m. So you can see here that we do have temperatures slightly above the freezing mark up and down lengths of the UK. A little bit less cold over across Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Looking at Europe specifically as a whole, you can see that we are building the cold somewhat across North and Eastern Europe, still staying somewhat milder the further southwest you go. This is the latest radar imagery here showing as the sun sets. We've got the high pressure centered generally between the Northern Isles across southern portions of Norway, Sweden and Finland. Got that pressure around 1047 millibars. Got an area of low pressure over the near continent that is dragging in something a little bit more in the way of breeze, cloud, outbreaks of rain, some sleet mixed in as well. And we've generally got a mixture of rain, sleet and some high ground snow aboard that easterly flow, but really not a huge amount to speak about over the next 5 days or so here. If we look at the latest of the GFS model, this is the overview, precip, cloud, temperature and pressure. There's that 1047 millibar high centered over southern Norway at the moment. There's that area of low pressure. Not a deep low by any stretch at 1014 millibars, but we've got some moisture and a little bit of increased breeze associated with that. But we play through the loop. We've got the areas of low pressure that do try to attack from the southwest, but it's coming up against the resistance of this high to the north and to the east. So we've got that area of low pressure kind of stuck, trapped underneath the high. We're going to continue to see some showers of rain, maybe some wintry mix, anywhere from really northern portions of Norfolk all the way up to Northumberland, Tyneside, into the Scottish borders perhaps as well. But generally speaking, it's fairly quiet. But notice here that as systems try to move in from the west, they're really kind of just fizzling out because of the pressure being quite strong over the UK and Ireland. So this is all the way out towards the end of the week. We've still got that high pressure. We may start to see a little bit more clear skies and lighter winds. We'll lose the easterly flow according to the GFS here. You notice that we'll lose the isobars here in the chart. So therefore, while we've got a system that's edging in, it will probably penetrate across Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, but then really bump up against that high and it kind of falls apart. But with this possible clear skies towards the end of this week, we may introduce something colder both by day and by night. But we'll play through this loop here. You see very, very little in the way of weather to speak about across the UK and Ireland here, based on this overview of the GFS model. Look at this here. This is us going all the way out to a week from now, and a real lack of precipitation, and to an extent, a lack of weather overall. So let's have a look at the 850s real quick and see what they are showing. So there's another little lobe of somewhat colder air, but again, it's very, very moderate brand. Cold temperatures by daytime 4 to 6 Celsius, maybe a 7 or 8 in some spots. So it's not a cold air mass really by any stretch. Play through the loop here. You can see these lobes of colder air trying to get drawn westwards here. And it's really once we start to get towards the end of the week and into the weekend, it's our eyes are kind of drawn to the colder air that's getting driven south. This is by far the coldest air mass in the entire winter. Moving into Norway, Sweden, Finland, we may get some -40s associated with this, by the way. And as we play right the way through, there is the interesting scenario showing up here, and it's all about the movement of the high pressure, by the way, and how much influence it's having in terms of causing significant disruption to the tropospheric polar vortex. I've made mention of this now for days now about this one piece going into North America, another piece going into Europe, and really this is a very interesting situation developing here. But the UK finds itself in the battleground between Atlantic trying to move in from the west and Arctic air, polar air, coldest air of the season, trying to drill south. And you can see that the UK is in that battleground between the two conflicting air masses towards the final 10 days of the month. Looking at the ECMWF then, and let's have a look and see what it is indicating. We'll start off by looking at the overview chart. Again, relatively quiet, nothing particularly exciting over the next several days, but it's what's coming, what's lurking towards the upcoming weekend that's going to be interesting to watch. So play through, you've got that area of low pressure, two areas, in fact, one over Biscay to the southwest of Ireland. We've got the other one over the Low Countries, for example. We've still got that easterly flow. We've got the high pressure to the north, low pressure to the south. Continue to play it through, very like the GFS here. System struggling to penetrate that high. It's coming up against the resistance to the high, that wall within the atmosphere that essentially just sucks the life out of these fronts moving in from the west. Continue to play it all the way through, and it's doing a pretty darn good job at keeping these weather systems at bay. So we're going to remain cold on average, and this is going to make this month below average in terms of the temperature normally. So it's very much worth paying attention to this. It's a quiet, cool month. It's probably the best way to describe it so far. And this is out to Tuesday of next week. Continue to play through here. Not a whole lot of weather to speak about, but we have got colder air moving in. So let's look at the 850s, and then we'll close off by looking at the snow depth charts before we round things up. So this is how the 850s are looking at the moment here. Again, lobes of cold air. You've heard me saying that more than once now already. These lobes of cold air running around the base of the high to the north, and like the GFS, we're seeing this very significant cold air mass descending south. ECMWF looks as if it's doing a better job compared to the GFS at holding back some of this cold initially, but then as we move towards the Friday Saturday time frame, 21st 22nd February, looks as if it's trying to pull that colder in towards more the UK and Ireland overall. So it's just a case of continuing to watch this as we go forward here. The models may start to show the cold never really reaching the UK. It may reach the UK at the same time. So it's worth watching the overall solution as opposed to jumping on board one model run that says we're going to see -15 Celsius at 850 over the UK. The next run we'll see that -15 Celsius over Norway. It never really gets to the UK and Ireland. So there's no point in jumping on board one model run that kind of suits what you're wanting to see. Essentially, you're wanting milder, you'll jump in the mild runs. You're wanting colder, you'll jump in the colder runs. Essentially, here on the channel, it's trying to keep a level head on it and provide the evidence to back up the ideas. I've made mention of this already, that we've got the coldest air of the entire winter dropping south over Europe as well as over North America. It's that cold shock driving into North America, likely to activate the jet stream and try and push mild Atlantic air into western areas of Europe. So it causes that resistance to that bitterly cold air that's descending over Europe from penetrating westwards towards the UK and Ireland. So we've got this tug of war between Atlantic and Arctic as we move generally towards the upcoming weekend here. So we'll watch and see what happens. The Madden-Jalen oscillation, which we'll talk about in tomorrow's video, looks very interesting. We're rotating back into phases 7 and 8. Those are cold conducive phases. We've also got a tank into the Arctic oscillation. The North Atlantic Oscillation is struggling, according to the GFS anyway. It's struggling to go much below negative, which is interesting. But let's have a look and see finally at snow depths here off the ECMWF. Play through the loop. We've got not a great deal to speak about here. Patchy across many areas of the UK, and then all the way out to the end of the run. Not much to speak about really. Looking at the GFS in terms of the snow depth, and this is how things are looking. Play through. Remember in that system here to the just off the southeast of the UK, trying to, and we've also got those frontal systems moving in from the west. But again, not an awful lot to speak about in terms of snow, GFS or ECMWF. Things light up a little bit towards the end of next week, which is around the 19th, 20th of the month. We'll watch this space, but nothing really through the next 5 or 6 days. But I do encourage you to stick around here on the channel. We're going to look at the MJO. We're looking at the latest with regards to the polar vortex, both troposphere as well as stratosphere, in the next video. So stay tuned for that. Like and subscribe. See you tomorrow with more.